Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Dos Anjos. This fight night was leading up to be very perfect. Forget about the jokes about Alan Jouban jinxing first round finishes. That doesn't matter. What matters is, for the first time in a very long time, I think so, I'd have to check back, we have a pure robbery. You know, for the past few episodes, we've just been talking about, this decision's close, this decision, scorecards are fucked here, but the guy won the fight, the lady won the fight, whatever. No, we have a pure robbery. And as I was writing it down, I was just like, okay, you know, whatever, we'll just go through. This will be a routine 29-28. And we can move on. But this continues to keep happening, and it makes no fucking sense. This reminds me, and I can't remember the name at the moment, but I think it's the Priscilla Cachoeira versus the South Korean girl. Her name is escaping me at the moment, but where all three judges give her the fight. And not only do the stats say otherwise, because the stats can be a little tricky here, so it's not even that, where you're like, oh, the stats say otherwise. It's, in that case, the stats say otherwise because she outstruck her pretty much 3-1. But in this particular case, it's not only the stats are saying the opposite, it's our eyes are saying the opposite. And I'm not a fan of the Cub Swanson is clapping for the other guy, because there's been many times where, a person looks dejected, and then we all know that they won the fight. A perfect example is O'Malley. O'Malley looked dejected after round 3, and he was versus Peter Yan. And in my head, I'm like, O'Malley, you just won this fight. O'Malley won this fight, and then the judges had that right. But there's many cases where fighters are just they're clapping, and they're like, oh shit, I won. Oh shit, oh fuck. So that's whatever. Let's get into this, right? The only robbery on the card. Just a horrible decision. Okay, Swanson versus Dawodu, 29-28. My scorecard is 29-28 to Dawodu. The first 2 rounds go to Dawodu. This is unequivocal. This is just, it is what it is. 29-28. First 2 rounds go to Dawodu. All right, let's start off in the first round. First round, Dawodu outstrikes Swanson clearly. He outstrikes him clearly. There is no, oh, this was close. No, he outstrikes him pretty clearly. You go to the second round where Dawodu, again, outstrikes Swanson on the feet and in the clinch. A lot of this second round was occupied in the clinch. They're both landing on each other in the clinch, but Dawodu has Swanson in the clinch, and he's outstriking him in the clinch as well. You go to the third round where it's actually close on the feet. Swanson starts to get the better of Dawodu towards the end a little bit, and then bam, he the first time Swanson gets a takedown, and then the second time he gets another takedown, and then Dawodu has like a reversal at the very end of the round, but that's irrelevant. That round belongs to Swanson. Just watching this fight, you knew that Dawodu was up 2-0. But again, these are the Vegas judges, where it makes no sense. You can look at a round clear and go, that person won, and then look at the scorecard and go, what the fuck? That doesn't even make any sense. A quick segue, and then I'll read the scorecards here. I was watching The Ultimate Fighter. I think it was episode 4. And it was Timur Valiev versus the other guy. His name escapes me as well. And I remember thinking, I was watching it, and I remember thinking, they were like, okay, we're going to go to the decision, right? Where they essentially just count 2 rounds of the scorecards because there's no need for a third round. And Connor's on the side, and he's like, oh no, we got to fight for a third round. And in my head, I'm like, no, Timur won 2 of those rounds. But then in the other side of my head, I'm like, you know what? One of the two of these judges could have fucked it and given him the first round. 2 of these judges could have done that. Instead, they didn't. But that's beyond the point. The point is, they were crystal clear there. Which I'm not saying that's a close round in any sense of the imagination, but they were very clear on The Ultimate Fighter. Here, they're just like, fuck it, Swanson won. It hurts me because if you understand how some of this works, and I don't think Dawodu is going to get cut or anything, but a couple weeks ago, Tyson Nam gets cut, and you're looking at certain fights where you're just like, man, when people get robbed, oh, well, that's a good example. He got robbed, right? That was a robbery a while ago. When people get robbed, do the UFC go, man, you got robbed, here's another chance? Or do they just go, oh, sorry, you lost? Because it's insane. If this were a title fight, Dana would be in the back room going, that's a terrible decision. We got to run that back. That shouldn't have happened. These judges are stupid. He would have gone on a tirade. But because these are guys who, are fighting in the apex where no one's watching, it's like, we don't give a fuck. Is Mick Maynard watching? Is Sean Shelby watching? I hope so. Because if I were a UFC matchmaker, I'm like, yo, you got robbed in that shit, dude. We're giving you another fight. We're giving you another chance. It's insane. So we go to the judges' scorecards, where Saul D'Amato, he gives the last round to Swanson. He gives the second round to Dawodu, and then he gives the first round to... I'm sorry, I'm reading this backwards. I'm giving this all the way backwards. Excuse me. He gives the first round to Dawodu. Gives the second round to Swanson. Honorable mention, shitty scorecard. Gives the second round to Swanson. Nonsense. All right, then we go to Ron McCarthy and Jacob Montalvo. Both of their scorecards look exactly the same. They both give the first round to Swanson. Nonsense. Second round to Dawodu. And then the third round to Swanson. The first round they gave to Swanson. He got that is one of the clearer rounds. That is the clearest round. Dawodu outstrikes him. Clear in that first round. And two of those judges, Ron McCarthy and Jacob Montalvo, give the first round to Swanson. Honorable mention to all three of them. Just terrible all around. Terrible. Very disappointed. We go to straight to the honorable mentions. This will be a quick one. We go straight to the honorable mentions. It's Amorim versus Ruiz. All right. This fight ended in a TKO for Amorim in the third and final round. In the first round, Amorim had a takedown with ground and pound for about 4+ minutes, possible 10-8 there. In the second round, Amorim had a reversal because she got taken down by Ruiz, but she had a reversal with ground and pound for about 3+ minutes as well, also a possible 10-8. I gave the first two rounds to Amorim a 10-8. You go to the judges' scorecards. Junichiro Kamijo, his scorecard reflects mine. Ron McCarthy, his scorecard reflects mine. Tony Weeks decides, no 10-8. I wish... looking back at it, I wish he maybe could have given a 10-8 in that first round. He didn't. The second round, I kind of was contemplating it. In my head, I was like, you know what? You can actually argue there's no need for a 10-9 here because she kind of starts throwing heavy punches at the very end of the round, not really throughout the entire round. But those are the scorecards for that. You go to the next honorable mention. Okay, and that's Dobson versus Nchukwi. I think it's Nchukwi. Yeah, Dobson versus Nchukwi. I had this 30-27. Guys, this is another 30-27 that the judges were just like, no, this is a 29-28 for some goober-esque reason. Okay, but this is a 30-27. I put a close marker on the second round. You can argue the second round for Nchukwi. At the very least, this is a 29-28, but this is a 30-27 on my scorecard. You go to the first round. There's this weird particular thing where the commentator is really highlighting how heavy Nchukwi's leg strikes are, but he only lands maybe 3 of those heavy ones, and then he gets outstruck. Like, Dobson is outstriking him heavy in this round. So it's weird how anyone should give Nchukwi this first round, but whatever. Dobson outstrikes Nchukwi mostly with leg kicks, if not all with leg kicks. He lands a couple strikes to the head, but almost all of his strikes are leg kicks. Then he has a takedown with a little bit of ground and pound towards the end. This round is absolutely his. You go to the second round where it's close. Dobson barely outstrikes Nchukwi, and that's according to my counter. He barely outstrikes him, so I put a close marker there just to be safe, right? You can argue that round for Nchukwi. And then the third round, also clear. Dobson had a takedown with little ground and pound for about 2+ minutes. What happened on the feet was pretty much, they were pretty even on the feet. Dobson gets the takedown with little ground and pound for 2+ minutes. He basically just stays on him, right? It's funny, right? Because if you watched the last card, Sandhagen versus Font, and I don't know if it was, I think Mark Smith did this one, but throughout the night, anytime there was a ground position and Herzog was there, Herzog's just like, hey. Herzog's like, hey, I don't know if he got a lot of shit. He shouldn't have, but I don't know if he got a lot of shit, but it was basically like, hey, I need you guys to be active. And in my head, I was like, damn, bro. People really hated that fight. And look, it is what it is. I think the problem I had, the problem I had with the commentary, not the commentary, the problem I had with the critiquing of the Sandhagen versus Font fight is that people were like, oh, Sandhagen wasn't active enough on the ground. He was active enough. A lot more active than Dobson or Lucindo or let me just roll through or fucking I guess those are the only two people, right? Or fucking Pickett or Fremd or is there anyone else I'm missing? Or just those people. Of like how those guys were so inactive and no one's saying anything. Obviously, it's not a title. It's not a main event in Nashville, but still, it's just people's memory so selective. Like, oh, I left. Oh, I turned off the TV. It's like he was landing occasional ground and pound. We've seen worse. We've seen a lot worse. But whatever. That's me being sidetracked. The judges' scorecards. Saul D'Amato had it. He gave the first round to Nchukwi. Honorable mention. That's absolutely not. He outstruck him, I want to say, by like on the feet. He outstruck him clear. And then he had a take. Guys, you have to help me. You really have to help me. Because this makes no fucking sense. On any planet in the world, this makes no sense. He gives the first round to Nchukwi. Are you telling me that those 3 fucking leg kicks that were heavy is what he's scoring? That deters? That just says, oh, fuck the takedown. He was outstriking him on the feet and he had the takedown. What world do you give the first round to Nchukwi? Absolutely crazy. This is the same judge who gives Albazi, I want to say 4 rounds. I want to say 3 just to be safe because I don't remember, but 3 rounds clear. Whatever. Honorable mention, he gives the last 2 rounds to Dobson. Honorable mention there to Saul D'Amato. Then Ron McCarthy, he gives the first round to Dobson, second round to Nchukwi, and then the last round to Dobson. And then Jacob Montalvo, his scorecard reflects Ron McCarthy as well. Crazy by Saul D'Amato to give the first round to Nchukwi. What's going on there? How does that make any sense? The closest round for Nchukwi is round 2. Next honorable mention, Viana versus Lucindo. Lucindo won this fight in the second round by submission. In that first round, I had a 10-9 for Viana. In that first round, if I can find it, both had a takedown, but Viana outstruck Lucindo on the feet, kind of barely. She barely outstruck her on the feet, and was much more active on the ground. Now, Lucindo ended on top, which gave the optic that she won the round, but not at all. If you watch that entire round, Viana won that round just based off of what she did. She outstruck Lucindo on the feet, and she was much more active when she had the takedown. She had a lot more ground and pound. She not only was she active when she was on top of Lucindo, but when she was on bottom, she was much more active. This was the perfect round where I believe Jason Herzog was like, hey, Lucindo, you gotta work. She was very inactive on top of Viana, Lucindo was. So that round absolutely goes to Viana. You go to the judges' scorecards. Adelaide Bird is the only one who gets it fucking right. Adelaide Bird had it a 10-9 for Viana. Honorable mention to Junior Chiricomedian and Ron McCarthy. They give that round to Lucindo because she basically ended the round on top of her, but wasn't active enough on top of her, was outstruck on the ground and on the feet. Honorable mention of those two. You go to the last honorable mention, and that's the main event. Luque versus Dos Anjos. I had this 48-47. I give the first and the last round to Dos Anjos, the second, the third, and the fourth to Luque. You go to the descriptions here. It's close on the feet. Okay, it's close on the feet. And then Luque has some ground and pound at the very end. He has like 4 shots at the very end. But Dos Anjos was much more active in the clinch. I mean, he outstruck Luque in the clinch, and he had a submission attempt. Granted, the submission attempt wasn't in, but it's enough. He did enough in my eye to win that first round. You go to the second round, Luque outstruck Dos Anjos on the feet and in the clinch. Repeat in the second round. It's closer on the feet here. I give the edge to Luque. It's closer on the feet, but again, Luque got a takedown to close the round. It's close on the feet, and Luque got a takedown to close the round. Quick segue. There was talk about Luque getting this many submissions. First of all, they mentioned Paul Felder getting a submission on Dos Anjos. They didn't mention Colby Covington getting takedowns on Dos Anjos, but that's whatever. Second, they talked about Luque getting a bunch of these takedowns. A lot of these takedowns shouldn't have been counted. It's insane how every time we watch a UFC event, 1 minute it's, he didn't hold him down long enough for the takedown to be established. But then in this fight, Luque literally just pulls his feet down, and then Dos Anjos is up. Dos Anjos is up. So they credit him with, I want to say, 4 to 5 takedowns, when in actuality, if you really want to count it, Luque had, I want to say, if you really want to count it, Luque had 1 and 2. Yeah, Luque had 2 takedowns out of the 4 to 5 that they tried to credit him with, which were not takedowns in any sense of the imagination. But that's fine. I think he should only be credited for 2, but that's whatever. You go to the fourth round, Luque outstruck Dos Anjos in the clinch again and had a takedown. And then in the fifth round, Dos Anjos outstruck Luque on the feet, kind of barely. They were kind of even, and then he kind of landed a couple of shots before he got the takedown, and then had some ground and pound there to kind of close out the round. You go to the judges' scorecards. And just looking at this without even reading it, it's all fucking mixy, and it makes no fucking sense. I in my head I was thinking this was going to reflect my scorecard. It doesn't. It's just retarded scorecarding. We're going to start with Ron McCarthy. He gives the first round to Dos Anjos. That's correct. Then proceeds to give 2, 3, and 4 to Luque. And then, guys, help me out here. He gives the last round to Luque. Luque got outstruck on the feet. Now, granted, barely. So let's just be fair here and say, okay, it was even on strikes, right? Because we can't say he was outstriking Dos Anjos. Dos Anjos outstruck Luque on the feet. Let's just say it was even on the feet. The round ends with Dos Anjos getting a takedown with ground and pound. In what world do you give this round to Luque? Honorable mention, that's just nonsense. Just based off that last round. And this is the cleanest scorecard. Because I'm about to get into the other two, which is fucking sloppy and stupid. Stupid and sloppy. This scorecard is. I swear to God. Oh my God. This whole scorecard is crazy. You then go to Junichiro Kamijo. He gives the first round to Dos Anjos. Okay. He gives the second round to Luque. Okay. He gives the third round to Dos Anjos. Now, I'm looking at the third round. It's close on the feet. And Dos Anjos, Luque gets a takedown at the end to close the round. Now, it was weird, right? Because if you watch this round, to give bail to Junichiro Kamijo for this third round, Dos Anjos is holding Luque's neck. So could you say he pulled guard? No, because yes, no. It's a weird looking round that ends. But it's a takedown for Luque. And it's close on the feet. It's not as though Dos Anjos was outstriking Luque. So, honorable mention here that's stupid to just give the third round to Dos Anjos. And forget about that for a second. He gives the fourth round to Luque and then gives the fifth round to Luque as well. He gives the fifth round to Luque as well. What I'm starting to sense here is that maybe earlier in the rounds, they're just like, oh, I fucked up and gave the wrong round to somebody. And they were like, okay, here's a makeup round. That's what I'm sensing in my head, is it's a makeup round. But in Ron McCarthy's case, there's no need to give a makeup round in the 5th round. You could have easily given that to Dos Anjos and it would have been fine. It would have been correct, but it would have been fine. But whatever. You move over to the back to Junichiro. He gives the 5th round to Luque. And I understand that if he gave it to Dos Anjos, he would have basically had a split decision there. So, still, honorable mention for just having it on the wrong one. Saul Yamato, he gives the 1st round to Luque. No, not at all. Nonsense. 2nd round, he gives to Luque. 3rd round, he gives to Dos Anjos. So that's 2 judges who give it to Dos Anjos. Makes no sense. And then 4th round, he gives to Luque. And then 5th round, he gives to Dos Anjos. Honorable mention to all 3. It's just shitty scorecards all over the place. Real fucking shitty. And that's all I got. I'll be back next week for the big pay-per-view. Thank you all for listening, and God bless.